entitled Jesus, the Good Shepherd. And this is actually a lesson for the shepherds in training. Okay, but as we know, we're all meant to be shepherds to one degree or lesser. So it is a lesson that we can all learn from, and it is very definitive about the expectation of somebody who is a shepherd, which we will all become at various different times in our lives. So the title is Jesus the Good Shepherd. Why do we need good shepherds? The main passage we're going to be looking at is John chapter 10. All right, so why do we need good shepherds? Well, in John 10 verse 1 it says, "Very truly I tell you, Pharisees, anyone who does not enter the sheep pen by the gate, but climbs in by some other way, is a thief and a robber." So what's it basically talking about here? Basically, anybody that gets into the sheep gate except through the sheep pen, except through the gate, is up to no good. Well, in other words, he's saying, look, there will be wolves in sheep's clothing come into our flock. We don't like that thought, but that is a reality. And also, there's always a black sheep in every family that is promoting rebellion. So as a result, we need good shepherds. Also, from the word sheep, we get this word being sheepish. That's where we derive the term. So what does that basically mean? To be sheepish is to be abashed, embarrassed, especially through looking foolish or being in the wrong. So sheep mess up. Also, to be sheepish implies timidity or a lack of initiative. You think about how many young Christians, they want to talk about things, but they don't initiate. So, to sum up, a sheep is a defenseless, aimless, foolish, in short, ridiculous animal. And that's how God describes us. Okay? To prove the point, here's an excerpt from a news article entitled, "Turkish Sheep Die in Mass Jump." It says, first one sheep went over the cliff, only to be followed by the whole flock, according to reports. More than 400 sheep died in the 50-foot fall. Their bodies cushioned the fall of 1,100 others who followed. What is the lesson in this? Sheep will lead other sheep astray. And sheep can learn from other sheep to jump off cliffs, and by surviving, then think it's okay to continue to jump off cliffs. So you think about it. Have you ever had somebody say, well, the reason I did it is because that bro did it? Yeah. But does that make it right? Well, bro, he's a leader. But does that make it right? But that is how people talk in the church. I did it because so-and-so did it, or so-and-so did it, without actually asking the deep question. So I remember one evangelist visited us at a conference, and he said, this is what I'm doing in my church. And everyone was like, I heard this is what they're doing over in America, we should do it. I said, did you ask him if his church is growing? He said, no, well, let me look it up. It's not, it's shrinking. So I wouldn't take his advice if I were you. So just because you get advice from somebody that seems to be spiritual, actually dig a bit deeper. Because some of the people will ask advice often they have deep conviction, when you actually find out what's going underneath, their life is not really going that well. Good versus a bad shepherd. The title, the Good Shepherd, implies that it's possible to be a bad shepherd. God takes it very seriously when those in charge of his flock are bad shepherds or leaders. Ezekiel 34, which I think Jesus was really referring to in John 10 when he was talking about it. Ezekiel 34 verse 1, it says, "The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Israel. Prophesy and say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says, woe to you shepherds of Israel, who only take care of yourselves. Should not shepherds take care of the flock? You eat the curds, clothe yourself with wool, and slaughter the choice animals, but you do not take care of the flock. You have not strengthened the weak, or healed the sick, or bound up the injured. You have not brought back the strays, or searched for the lost. You have ruled them harshly and brutally. So they were scattered because there was no shepherd. And when they were scattered, they became food for all the wild animals. My sheep wandered over all the mountains and on every high hill. They were scattered over the whole earth, and no one searched or looked for them. Therefore, you shepherds, hear what the word of the Lord, as sure as I live, declares the sovereign Lord, because my flock lacks a shepherd, and so has been plundered and has become food for all the wild animals. And because my shepherds did not search for my flock, but cared for themselves rather than for my flock, therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. I am against the shepherds and will hold them accountable for my flock. I will remove them from tending the flock so that the shepherds can no longer feed themselves. I will rescue my flocks from their mouths, and it will no longer be food for them. So what are the signs of a bad shepherd? They are more interested in taking care of their own wants and desires than the needs of the flock. They are self-indulgent in pleasure of this world while their flock suffers. They do not strengthen the weak. Instead, they let the weak remain weak or get weaker. They do not seek out the strays, that would be fallaways for us, and bring them back. They do not search for strays until they find them. You know what I say? Well, I tried, bro. I phoned him, he didn't reply. That's not going until you find it. And they're unloving and emotionally lazy. God does not simply remove them as shepherds. They're not fired. God actively causes their life to spiral out of control to a place of starvation. He goes, I want you to know what it feels like. This is exactly what happened to the leaders and shepherds in the ICOC. They gave up on discipling, gave up on running after people. They themselves struggled, and because there was no overseeing evangelist, even though they were in the ministry, they spiraled to a place of spiritual starvation with nobody to rescue them. I actually remember being in this meeting. So the meltdown happened beginning of 2003. We went to a meeting in either late January or February. And honestly, there was about a third of the church there. All right? And we, as the ex-ministry people, weren't allowed to say anything. And people were saying, oh, you know, we need to talk about how many people aren't here. And one of the leaders at that time stood up and said, we shouldn't run after them. They need to make their decision whether they want to. That's been the whole problem. People have been held in by the leaders, by accountability, and they need to decide if they want to come. I stood up. That is so unbiblical. That is sin. And that was the last time we ever went to a meeting or heard. That's what I went to. It's like, well, you got to let people really feel it. We are super unspiritual, and most of the time we don't feel like being spiritual. That's the reality. To think any other way is to be a charismatic deceived by Satan. We must work every day to become and remain a good shepherd. Let me tell you, some of the people that I see in their heyday were phenomenal shepherds. There is a reason people encourage their children to count sheep to go to sleep. Counting sheep can tire you out and put you to sleep if you are not focused on keeping awake. Are you tired of shepherding people? It is exhausting to love people. My job is not difficult physically. It's not. It's the emotional exhaustion of being in the ministry. Like Luke often said to me, well, all you do is hang out with your friends all day. He doesn't sort of understand the pressure and things like that. It's the emotional exhaustion. It's the feeling. It's the love. It's the breaking of the heart. It's all of those things. But you've got to make sure you never tire of being a good shepherd. Yeah. All right, we've got 3 points. Point 1. The right way. There is a right way to come into the kingdom. John chapter 10, verse 2. The one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. So, you enter the gate through believing in Jesus, the biblical view of Jesus, not the religious view. Through true repentance and baptism, this is the only way to be saved. Believing we are his kingdom and all other groups are not. You cannot be a shepherd in God's kingdom unless you truly believe these things, because you will not teach them, call people to believe in them, and obey them. This will eventually cause others and eventually you to fall away. 1 Timothy 4:16. Watch your life and doctrine closely, persevere in them, because if you do, you will save both yourself and your hearers. You go, well, I would never disbelieve that. It shocked us in the meltdown how quickly, and I'm talking in weeks, some of our leaders went, you know what, I don't believe in baptism for the forgiveness of sins. People we had worked with for 10 years. And it was emotional. The issue was, even Elena said she struggled with it, because what it was is, can we really be wrong? I mean, now it's all falling apart. Can we really be the only ones that are saved? It's not logical. It's this emotion of there's so few of us. But you've really got to understand. We had one guy went to Cambridge in what is the equivalent of ICCM, would get 100, not only in the exams, in essays, which is like nearly impossible. And within a month, he'd become a Baptist minister. I was blown away. And what it was his wife was very, very sentimental. And she just couldn't, get her head around this concept of, well, if everybody's leaving the kingdom, they're lost because they're giving up on the biblical. So maybe if we don't believe in baptism for forgiveness of sins, then all my friends are still saved. And he bought into it. But you've got to understand, you've got to have that nailed down. There's a right way to lead in the kingdom. John 10 verse 3. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes on ahead of them, and his sheep follow him because they know his voice. But they will never follow a stranger. In fact, they will run away from him because they do not recognize a stranger's voice. So the gatekeeper opens the gate to pasture, food, nourishment. This all represents salvation. You must always be leading people to salvation. So John 10:16, Jesus says, I have other sheep that are not of this pen, I must bring them in also. So while Jesus is the overseeing shepherd, he still gathers sheep. So you're not a shepherd and you stop being somebody that converts people personally. Are you constantly bringing people to church, studying the Bible with people? If not, there's something wrong with either your schedule, your focus, or your heart. Sometimes people have good hearts, but they don't nail down their schedule. They're resistant to changing it or their focus. And let's be honest, it's really easy. We're being pulled apart all the time. Shepherds must never be distracted by their personal lives. That's a hard teaching. But Luke 8:14, this is the parable of the sower, says, the seed that fell among the thorns stands for those who hear. But as they go on their way, they are choked by life's worries, riches, pleasures, and they do not mature. But the seed on the good soil stands for those with a noble and good heart who hear the word, retain it, and by persevering produce a crop. So what is really great about being personally fruitful is you can tell whether you're distracted, because you either are fruitful or you're not. It's a really simple, it's like soccer. Did we win? Well, did we score any goals? No. Well, then the best we got was a draw. Pretty obvious, okay. So we've got to understand that has to be the main focus. Why? Here it says the shepherd must lead the way. Your role is to show people how to be like Jesus, not simply tell them how to be like Jesus. The sheep look at the shepherd and imitate him. Sheep cannot speak the language of the shepherd. God created them to learn through imitation, not education. That's really important to understand. People know if you have a visitor next to you. They do, they just see it. They know. I know that you look at me and go, well, did he have one? I'm leading a Bible talk with Paul. It's really obvious. There's only 3 men in the group. And if Paul doesn't bring one and Kevin doesn't bring one, well, it's on me. Does that make sense? So you've got to understand that your life is your message. The shepherd has an influence. Sheep will choose to follow you. You can't demand sheep follow you in the church. It's a voluntary organization. People either follow you or they don't. If you are unspiritual, your voice does not sound like Jesus, and they will run away from you. Good shepherds increase their flock, bad shepherds decrease their flock. So the leaders of God's kingdom in Jesus' day, they didn't understand this. So he's talking to the Pharisees. In John 10:6, it says, Jesus used this figure of speech, but the Pharisees did not understand what he was telling them. Why? They didn't want to. They didn't want to. If they accepted what Jesus said, they would have to really change their beliefs, their lifestyle, to become radically selfless. So the reason why people don't hear, you have a sermon and people walk out, it's just great. They don't hear because they don't want to. To become like Jesus, a shepherd who was always amongst the people, serving them, loving them, tending to their needs. If your hands are not dirty, you're in the wrong job. We don't have commanders that talk from the back, okay? You've got to be amongst the people. That's the model. Whereas the Pharisees went, well, I'll just get my assistant Bible talk leader to do it, and I'll get my this to do it, and I'll get my that to do it. Doesn't matter how old I get, we still need to be personally fruitful with our hands on the ground. Point 2, the wrong way. You must be someone people listen to. John 10:7. Therefore Jesus said again, very truly I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who have come before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep have not listened to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. They will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. Now, this is pretty insulting. He's like, you Pharisees, I'm talking to you. You're thieves and you're robbers. What stops people listening to shepherds or leaders? It's very simple. It's their life. People want life to the full. If they don't see it in you, why should they listen to you? It's as simple as that. Is your life attractive? Basically, is it where they want to be? Do you have a good job? No debt? Healthy relationships, including dating or marriage? Well-disciplined children? Good health? Not overweight? Are you constantly happy, not grumbling or complaining, or critical, or constantly upset? Basically, is it obvious that you love God? Remember, so much of loving God is actually being insulted and turning the other cheek. That really is. That's the point where you're at the piece where I really don't care what anybody says to me or says about me. I just entrust myself to God. Is it obvious that you love God, His kingdom, the mission, and being discipled? Oh yes, let's go there. Can your sheep basically see you dying saved because you are wholehearted like Caleb? I know when women choose a husband, it's like, will he get me to heaven? Right? You can put up with a lot, but you're basically saying, will he get me to heaven? As a shepherd, that's what they're asking and saying. If I follow this person, will I get to heaven? Well, let's look at their life. Are they on their way to heaven? People don't listen because of their beliefs. What comes out of your mouth? There is no place in the beliefs of a shepherd for favoritism, racism. Oh yes, some of it's in our hearts. I didn't know growing up that I was racist by the things that I said. Does that make sense? I've always loved all cultures, but that doesn't mean I've come across unracist all my life because I've been insensitive and need education. Sexism. Most men, in other words, all men except for Jesus, are chauvinistic. Every one of them. Okay? That's why you get so defensive towards the sisters. There is no place for self-righteousness or pride. These will push your sheep away from you and away from the flock. There is no place in the belief of the shepherds for bitterness, lack of forgiveness, disunity. These will teach your own sheep to stray. I love what Kip said. Here we go. You need a thick skin and a bad memory. Which means, man, you must be able to be insulted, sworn at, just whatever it is. And a bad memory is not Alzheimer's disease. It's like you've got to just forgive. Some of our persecutors become the best Christians. Take in note the Apostle Paul. Imagine Jesus went, man, you've been killing my Christian. I haven't you in the church. You understand how it works. There is no place in the beliefs of a shepherd for independence, worldliness, or personal kingdom building. These will teach your own sheep to stray. I was talking to a man and he said, well, with Len and Kira, if they're going to take on shepherding role and then they bring a great single, they need to be promoted. We needed to give them really great right-hand people in their Bible talk, like Chris and AJ. And that means that leaves you with no men in your Bible talk manual. Man is like, well, yeah, it's my job, isn't it, to basically give everyone away and keep conversing people. Oh, you're getting it. That's the evangelist job. Every time you get a guy, you get stolen. You give these people that are working 9-to-5 jobs that have the real pressure of life, that they get the best people, so that then they can convert them, they can disciple them, they can help them, etc. like that. What also stops people listening to shepherds? How they treat people. Well, we as leaders, this is important to know, while we as leaders go into strict training and often receive strict discipline as a shepherd, this is not the training a sheep receives. 1 Corinthians 9:25, everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. James 3:1, not many of you should become teachers, my fellow believers, because you know that we who teach will be judged more strictly. So we've got to understand that if I'm challenged by Kip at a certain level, I don't walk into staff with the same machine gun and go, okay, but sometimes we can get so hurt by the challenge as shepherds or as leaders, we then want to take it out. I want to pass this pain on to somebody else. That is not what you do. Sheep, being easily led astray, need to have the truth spoken to them in love. Lots and lots and lots of love. You go, well, I'm not feeling love from you. Yeah, well, you said you wanted to be an evangelist, Paul. Okay, so you've got to get prepared for being beaten up by Satan. That's the bottom line. That is not what the young disciple is struggling with. Ephesians 4:15, it said, speaking the truth in love, we will grow to become in every respect the mature body of him who is the head, that is Christ. From him the whole body, joined and held together by supporting ligaments, grows and builds itself up in love as each part does its work. You see how love applied to a young Christian makes it grow and grow and grow, whether it's Maria or whoever it is. But then there comes a point where you find the love of God is the only thing that you need. That's when you become a shepherd, a real biblical shepherd. Love, more than doctrine, keep the sheep in the flock. I wish that wasn't true, but that is absolutely the truth. We cannot treat the sheep the same way a shepherd is treated. Love is the only thing that never, ever fails. 1 Corinthians 13:4, be reminded of, love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast. Let's change this up. The shepherd in the Sydney International Christian Church is so patient, so kind, so unenvious, so unboastful, so humble. He's always honoring somebody else above himself. He's never self-seeking. He's never angry, ever. He keeps no record of wrongs. Man, it's just amazing the abuse he receives. He always delights in the truth. He's always protecting and trusting people who don't deserve to be trusted. He's always hoping for the best in people. And he perseveres with that brother that just, I would kick to the curb. My shepherd never fails to keep the sheep in the flock. Now, when your people, your sheep, look at your life, how would they grade you? A good shepherd. A shepherd in training that needs to grow and change some things. And you should know what you need to grow in and change. And you should be focusing on growing and changing these issues radically, because every day you don't, your sheep will suffer. You go, I don't like that responsibility. That is the responsibility of a shepherd. If a shepherd is lazy, sheep wander. He doesn't have a sleep in on a Saturday and go, you know what, I'll just have a morning off, I'm sure the sheep will be fine. No, the sheep are always wanting to stray. Or are you someone who is disqualified from being a shepherd or shepherd in training by your life, your words or actions? So let's deal with one of the myths of becoming a great leader or shepherd. Of note, some people who want to be in leadership try and focus on being the best sheep there is in the flock, thinking this will make them a good shepherd. They just focus on being personally fruitful and having a great relationship with God, then order the other sheep to imitate them. This does not make you a shepherd, it makes you a good sheep. A shepherd's role is to watch his sheep, think about, pray about, meditate on the health of the sheep, count his sheep, groom his sheep, defend his sheep, spend lots of time on his own fighting battles that no one else will ever know about. It includes long sleepless nights. You will never become a shepherd unless you embrace a shepherd's way of life. You can never be a shepherd if you justify yourself to be a good shepherd by quoting what a great sheep you are. To state the obvious, sheep are not shepherds and shepherds are not sheep. But that's religion. When you meet a religious leader, they just talk to you how like Jesus they are in their daily life. That just makes you a good sheep. That is not the role of a leader. Point 3, the Jesus way. You need to be willing to lay down your life. John 10:11. I'm a good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand is not the shepherd and does not own the sheep. So when he sees the wolf coming, he abandons the sheep and runs away. Then the wolf attacks the flock and scatters it. The man runs away because he's a hired hand and cares nothing for the sheep. Now, this concept of laying down your life, where does it come from? Well, when you lay down your life, that means you're in the grave. When somebody is lying down, that's like, in other words, you need to be willing to physically die. That's what it means to lay down your life. And that's what Jesus was on. But I think we go, I laid myself down for a day. I laid myself down for a week. It's this concept of you are just dead. You are willing to die for the cause. So people go, I laid down my life for my country. It means they died for their country. Being a shepherd or a leader in the kingdom is not a job. It's not. Jesus did not do a 40-hour week, have sick pay, take holidays, nip off and see his family whenever he wanted to. That's not what he did. It is much more like being a parent. Amen, parents? You'll relate to this one. You hope for a night off here and there, but if your kids need you, those plans go out the window. All right? Even when you're sick, you still let them scream. That's fine. It's good for this sermon. It'll come in. That's good background noise right there. Here we go. Okay. Even when you are sick, you still need to give and provide for your children. They are not particularly compassionate about your sickness, being selfish kids. So Kerry wakes up in the morning, gets a text, Mom, where's my coffee? She could be dead with the flu. So I love my kids. I'm going to make them a coffee. You're like, that's what it means. You hope for a holiday, but it's around your children's schedules, not yours. And when you're on holiday, you are still serving them, so it's not really a holiday. Like at Christmas, you go home, it's holiday. Your mum has spent 2 weeks cooking, 2 weeks cleaning, everything like that. They don't get a holiday at Christmas. I think this time last year, we went on our anniversary. And, it was really great. We arrived in the hotel, and she and another brother in Hong Kong were having this mass fight in the middle of the streets. It was not going well, and our anniversary just went poof in smoke. That was it. So it was just spent on the phone and on Skype and everything like that. Even on our day off, like when we had the GNN, I said, did you get a day off in your GNN? No. Did you see your husband on the GNN? No. Did you get okay, all right. And then I'm on the phone, I'm like, GNN, there is a deadline. Day off, poof, gone. There is no such thing. That's more like what it's like. But that's like a mum or a dad. The needs of your spiritual family come above those of your physical family. A shepherd does not abandon his flock, even if his family wants him to. This is a hard teaching at Christmas. Mark 3, verse 31. Let's just remind you of who your family is. Jesus' mother and brothers arrived, standing outside. They sent someone in to call him. A crowd was sitting around him, and they told him, your mother and your brothers are outside looking for you. Who are my mother and my brothers, he asked. Then he looked at those seated in a circle around him and said, here are my mother and my brothers. That's what you have to understand as a shepherd. There is no such thing as a break. There is no such thing as a break as a parent. A shepherd understands that he must fight for his sheep. This means putting your life on the line. Many of the shepherds in Israel were literally the youngest sons in a family like David. Yet they were still expected to fight off bears and lions. This would be like Finn, little Finn, taking on a bear and a lion. 1 Samuel 17:34. But David said to Saul, your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or bear came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, I seized it by the hair, struck it, and killed it. You cannot use youth as an excuse for being a bad shepherd. You need courage. That's all you need. The Holy Spirit and courage. Life is no longer about what you want to do, but about what your sheep need you to do. So think about this concept of I want to versus the sheep need me to. Let's go back to the parent. I want the house to be clean versus I need to clean up after my kids so that they are safe now in a clean house. Shepherd, I want to enjoy my life doing ... versus I need to do this so my sheep can enjoy their life and be safe. Jesus, the Good Shepherd, laid down his wants, his desires, even his actual life to save as many as possible so that we are to do the same. 2 Corinthians 5:14, for Christ's love compels us because we are convinced that one died for all and therefore all died. And he died for all that those who live should no longer live for themselves but for him who died for them and was raised again. Well, let's talk about the practicals of being a shepherd. Luke 15:4, suppose one of you has 100 sheep, loses one of them, doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? And when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders. See this real determination, I'm going to go and find it. I'm not going home. And then I'm just going to be fired up. I don't get with the sheep and go, you stupid sheep. I missed my lunch because of you and my date. Okay, that's not what it is. I know it's been in some of your hearts. Okay, okay. So when someone misses church, you visit them that day. You have people missing, you visit them that day, today. You take communion with them. You listen to the sermon with them. Only go home after you've found them. But I've got a date, Joe, and I've got, that's gone. What does this do? This standard also motivates people to make sure they have no one missing. It takes you from a reactive shepherd to a proactive shepherd. Because now you need to know who is weak in your church, who's likely to miss in your church, and get with them beforehand and bring them over for a date. And it causes this discipline, causes you to go, I better be on top of my sheep. Or that relaxing Sunday afternoon when leaders meeting and I can sit there and go, right, this is my time. That is poof, out the window. Right? Your weekly date should be focused on getting with the weak, making sure the young Christians and weak Christians go on great dates every Saturday. So you should know in your sector who went on a date last night and who didn't go on a date. You should know that as a shepherd. Have at least 2 prayer times a week with the weak or young Christians. So I would allocate 2 days and then rotate the people in it. It's not the same people, but that's the days where I go, okay, who wasn't singing at church, let me pray with you. Who wasn't, okay, let me pray with you. Right? Visit where every disciple in your flock lives. Meet their family and friends like a concerned parent. So often you can deal with a Christian's issue by talking to their parent. Mark 1:29, as soon as they left the synagogue, they went with James and John to the home of Simon and Andrew. So like when, Tim was in the church, I speak to his dad, I go, how's his exams go? Terrible. Tim, you need to get him to study. And then I phoned his dad. Okay, I spoke to him. We're going to make sure he passes his exam. Okay, he can come to church this week. In other words, sometimes it's not the disciple you need to speak to, it's the family. And once they realize, because people do, they play off, well, church has asked me to do this. And they're trying to sort of, become super spiritual, but they're not really, and they're offending their parents at home. So we need to be in touch with people. Always be hosting in your home. Why? People want family. They need to come in, see my relationship with my wife, with my family, actually see what a house looks like. I was talking to Obed about this earlier. What we've got to understand, especially the older brothers in the church, people actually don't know how to build families. So this week we had Eric's groom on it. And so I took Jordan and Kiana with me. We chose the presents together. We were big, trolley around Kmart and everything like that. Then we wrapped the presents together. You've got to understand, a lot of brothers don't know how to wrap presents, buy presents, where to buy presents, don't know how to tie a tie, don't know how to, darn a sock, that's all gone today. Don't know how to cook. Some sisters don't know how to cook. Honestly, husbands marry them and like, you go, what's in the fridge? It's called Uber. And the brother's like, that's it, I've got Uber for the next 30 years, you know what I mean? But all those skills for a lot of people have gone. All right, so you need to be a homemaker and teach people to be a homemaker. That's part of your role. You go, well, I feel like I'm not really doing ministry. That is ministry. That is ministry. Taking Alyssa out with Beth to buy her clothes and making sure she's confident for when Kip comes at the conference. That's part of being a dad. I've brought many of you suits. It's like, that's part of it. Right? Look at the contribution report weekly. Get with those that miss giving and dig deep as to why there is a problem. Not just get them to make up the money. That is not the issue, ever. But you need to look at the contribution sheet. So I talked to Kevin and to Roger at the conference. They missed their contribution, which sometimes happens because people are on heads of the spec. I said, bro, I need to speak to you because I'm now at a point where I lead so many people. I lose touch with the bottom. Have you lost your job? because I'm not close enough to you to know if there's problems in your life. So I look at it and go, have you lost your job? You've got enough money? Oh, no, I've just forgotten. But I'm going for the root. I'm not going, it's got nothing to do with the $20, the $15. That's not what it is. It's like, help me understand. Some people go, well, I don't like to put things on, just repeat giving. What if there's no money in the account? I go, well, let's talk about that. You should never not have money in your account. You should be able to have money in there so that when the money comes out, you've got an extra month's wage in there and stuff. So I've always kept 1 month's wage in my account so that when I go overdrawn, I'm overdrawn with myself. Does that make sense? So I've never paid overdrawn fees, ever. Why? Because I've always had money. Why? Because bad things happen. Okay? Wherever possible, take people with you. On errands, driving people to and from meetings. Like a parent. Get them in your house. Show them how to clean a toilet. Honestly, you go to some of the houses, no one has ever cleaned a toilet. You go, come on, bro, you can't ask them to clean a toilet. Then how are they going to learn? Get down on this, okay? Teach them to shop. Teach them where the bargains are. All these life skills that you have, and they're like, really? I just go in and I'll buy the first thing. Well, here's the sale counter. So even when I went with Alyssa and Beth, I said, give me a few minutes. And I know where all the girls' sale racks are. And I come back and, I go, and here's the sale. And Beth went, oh, not bad. You're like, really? Okay, all right. I said, time to blow my own horn out. I've got to do it. So we bought her clothes, and then the guy, I was giving her a little bit of advice on this, and I'm not, but she said, oh, will you stylist? And but there does need to be a bit where you're the dad or the mum, where you can have some knowledge of certain things, where you're not an idiot when you do these things, okay? Well, I don't know how to do them. YouTube it, okay? All right. Always pick up your phone and get back to left messages and emails immediately. Definitely, we have, in the kingdom-wide, we have a 24-hour rule. If you email me or call me, I need to be back to you in 24 hours. But you need to be much quicker. Wolves like to strike when you are least prepared or available, and Satan delays his attack for no man. In actual fact, Luke 4:13, I think one of possibly the scariest verses in the Bible, when the devil had finished all his tempting, he left him until an opportune time. Yeah. So it doesn't surprise that really the largest challenge of last year was on our anniversary. Because Satan's just go, I don't want you to enjoy yourself, and I don't want you to enjoy yourself, and I don't want you to enjoy. So you've got to get back to people quickly. Come to all the meetings of the body early. Be the first there, the last to leave. Deliberately sit next to somebody at church and engage them and help them sing. So you see someone like sitting next to you, you need to sit next to me. I was meant to have some people sit next to me today. It's like, they didn't turn up to church. It's like, sit next to me, I'm going to teach you how to sing. Right? Think about when you see Len and Kira with their little boys, they're always, don't do this, do this, do this, don't do this. That's what you have to do to the younger Christians. Always have an appointment with someone after church. Ideally, a Bible study where you pull a young or weak disciple in with you to strengthen them. So Mark said to me yesterday, hey, can I get time to? I said, sure. After church, sit in a study with me. We'll do the study together and then we'll have a chat afterwards. That's the ideal situation. Do follow-up studies with young Christians and count the cost for people becoming Christians. So you get connected. You must always be looking to strengthen the weak. That's your role. Good shepherds must deeply invest in their sheep. John 10:14 says, I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep and my sheep know me. Just as the Father knows me and I know the Father. And I lay down my life for the sheep. I have other sheep that are not of this sheep pen. I must bring them also. They too will listen to my voice, and there shall be one flock and one shepherd. The reason my Father loves me is that I lay down my life, only to take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of my own accord. I have authority to lay it down and authority to take it up again. This command I received from my Father. So here, and I think this is possibly the hardest teaching. You must know your sheep intimately and emotionally. The standard, it says here, is as close as God and Jesus. Now that is nothing but overwhelming. That's how emotional. If you do not know, it's not about, you can't, what I'm saying, it's not about knowing of them. You've got to really know them. You've got to notice the 1 out of the 100 that are missing. Not go through a list, you need to be able to look around and go, Where's that person? So I knew Mark was missing immediately. I knew who was missing. I knew Aaron was missing today. You've got to know them. If you do not feel emotionally close to someone, you will not naturally care for them. So it takes a lot of proactive time with someone to be close to them. This is why I've said to shepherds, it's one of those, just focus on the north. Bonnie and Obed just focus on the east. The crosses just focus on the west. If you start doing the job of a global shepherd type thing of the church, you can't get that close to the people that you're responsible for. Weekly prayer times. Fill every spare moment you have with time with them. Calling them, going on dates with them. Pray through your ministry all the time to put them on your heart. That's the easiest way. Have a list of your sheep easily at hand. So in the ministry, I go through it, I pray through it, I have my little list on my phone, and I go through it all, and I go, amen, I wonder how Leslie's doing. Amen, I wonder how this person's doing. When people struggle, you need to put in the time to really know why they are struggling, to have previously connected with them at a heart level, or they will not let you counsel them. So the reason why Tim allows me to really be quite strong with him, remember when he was doing well, and I went and bought him a suit and everything like that, he knows I care for him deeply. People really want to know if you care for them. If you're only getting with them because they're weak and you're the shepherd, they know it. Yeah. They know it. The other teaching is, you must know your sheep intimately and emotionally. Sorry, say that again. Your sheep must know you intimately and emotionally. Now this takes for vulnerability. Hands up if you're scared of being really vulnerable with people. You know why? They stab you in the back, don't they? Especially the weak. They use it against you. In understanding the practice of shepherding in Palestine at the time of Jesus, the sheep really did learn the shepherd's voice. In the summer, the sheep were taken to the rural areas to graze far away from home. There, several flocks would be bedded down in a night in a large sort of gated area of stone walls. In the morning, a shepherd would call for his sheep with a whistle, and the flock would separate, literally, and his sheep would follow him. Just like with our dog, Evie. I go, hey, Evie, she knows my whistle, and he comes running sometimes. Okay. So that means there was this emotional connection. When disciples are weak, they've often stopped listening to their discipler, even the word of God. Then they turn to their close friends for advice or help. One of them must be you as a shepherd. You need to be that Jonathan to David who helped him find strength in God because they cannot find it in themselves. 1 Samuel 23:16, and Saul's son Jonathan went to David at Horesh and helped him find strength in God. I think about when Solomon came to a January retreat and it seemed to be really, really great, and then somebody ran up to me as we were all going home, and they said, Solomon's going back to Queensland, he's falling away. He's told me he's falling away. I was shattered. I'm like, really? What was going on in my heart is not repeatable. But I was like, so I'm driving home, I dropped Kerry off. I said, Solomon, before you go, just give us a time of prayer. Just before you go to Queensland. Because he was all into this, well, how can I save my parents if I'm not there with them and stuff? So I got Brian Lynn, his best friend, and we went off to Maroubra. And I had this plan. I said, all right, I'm just going to walk as far as I can with him away from the car, because the longer I can walk, it means the longer he has to spend with me on the way back. So we just headed out, okay? And then I very carefully prayed. I said, okay, God, we started with that. I say, Solomon, Brian, you pray for 10 minutes. Okay. And then I got it to a point where I was praying for my family and how I really needed to save them and how I needed to be strong. And so I'm really discipling him and what I'm talking about. And then we sit on this rock and we're just praying and praying. We're praying until everything's out. And then we walk back and talk. And he's like, I say, give me one night. Just stay one more night. We'll have a prayer in the morning, then you can go. So he stays one more night. And then when we get up and we do exactly the same thing for hours. And basically I was able to really turn him to a point where the best way to save my family is to stay with the kingdom. Why was I allowed to do that? Because I'd pumped hours into Solomon beforehand. And that's what you have to understand as a shepherd. So often, it's like insurance. You hope that you will never have to use insurance. You pay it, and the best scenario is you never call them up, and you feel like your money was wasted because nothing went wrong in your life. As a shepherd, that's what your life is. You pour your life out and you go, I pour my life into these problems, and none of them are doing badly, and I feel like, what was the point? You've just proved the point. None of them are doing badly. All right? When you get in there to help them, it must be natural for them due to you having prayed with them, hung out with them so much before, like a true friend. They will only listen to you if they feel sincerely loved. Every shepherd or leader must be willing, eager, and excited about laying down their life for the sheep, for the stupid sheep, for the rebellious sheep, for the critical sheep, for the emotionally challenging sheep, and for the X in big brackets, demon-possessed sheep. Because sometimes the Bible says they come back in even more than before you met them as a Christian. Researchers of sheep say they can recognize emotions in facial expressions, not only in other sheep, but in humans. So if they know if their shepherd is sincere, a good shepherd, or a hired hand, your sheep know this too by your emotions and facial expressions. So you go, bro, this guy was missing, you need to go and visit him. And then they hear from their best friend, yeah, I was there. I heard it when they were asked to go and visit you. Man, they didn't want to do it. People here, you can hide nothing in the kingdom. Like a new dating couple, I tell nobody anymore. It needs to come as a surprise even to my wife sometimes, because it's like, we cannot hold good news in and bad news. We talk more than anybody else, because we're just used to talking. People know if you love to love people and serve them because they feel the love, not the anger and the frustration. You need to make every sheep feel incredibly valued. So I looked up the highest, the cost of the highest sheep. So the highest price ever achieved for a sheep was $369,000 for a sheep. Paid by Jimmy Douglas of Lancaster, Scotland, in August 2009, brought for breeding purposes. Every stray sheep you rescued has a great value to God and can be a world changer. Did not Jesus have to run after Peter? Every single apostle? Did not Barnabas have to go and find the apostle Paul? Think about how many of us will run after, doors banged on. Somebody even needed to chase after Kip once he was in the dip. Everybody becomes a stupid sheep many times in their life, and that means you. And with the measure you use, it will be used unto you. Conclusion. Jesus, the Good Shepherd. There is a right way. There is definitely a wrong way. The real issue is there's the Jesus way. The reaction of the shepherds of Israel in Jesus' day thought that the standard of a godly shepherd was pure madness and Jesus should not be listened to. In John 10:19 it says, the Jews who heard these words were again divided. Many of them said, he is demon-possessed and raving mad. Why listen to him? But others said, these are not the sayings of a man possessed by a demon. Can a demon open the eyes of the blind? Let me ask you today, how do you feel about being a shepherd or a leader in God's kingdom? Amen.
To hear more from Dr. Joe Willis, check out his 2 books on Amazon, The Art of Spiritual Warfare, Practicals for Becoming a Prayer Warrior, and Money is the Answer for Everything. Click the links in the description below. Also, for more life-changing lessons, subscribe to his YouTube channel, Dr. Joe Willis.